They thought your silence meant defeat, that your withdrawal from their chaos was a sign you had nothing left to fight with. But what they failed to see is that God had pulled you away to prepare a joy so complete, so divine, so untouchable, that by the time they realize what they lost, you will already be dancing in fields of grace that no human betrayal can poison. Jesus whispers now with fire and tenderness. They will regret letting you go, not because of pride or ego, but because heaven is about to raise you in ways they never imagined possible. And they will watch as the very joy they tried to withhold from you becomes the atmosphere you live in every single day. This is not about revenge, it's about revelation. It's about the revealing of your worth, your calling, your unshakable spiritual power that they underestimated. They mistook your kindness for weakness. They mistook your love for dependence. They thought they were the sun in your world, when all along you were drawing your light from the one who never dims, never changes, and never abandons. Jesus says you've cried enough over people who didn't know how to carry your heart. You begged, you prayed, you tried to make it work, even when your soul was suffocating. But now, child, now comes the shift. The divine turning point where you're no longer asking to be chosen. You're stepping into the reality that you've already been chosen by the one who sees it all. The tears you shed in silence were not wasted. They watered the very garden of peace you're about to walk into. And while they wonder if they made the right choice, you'll be too busy living your purpose to even turn around. Jesus says the grief you experience from being overlooked or walked away from is nothing compared to the joy that is rising now from the ashes. There is a holy joy on its way to you that isn't conditional, that isn't held back by the insecurities of others, that isn't limited by their inability to love you rightly. You are stepping into a season where you will no longer beg for crumbs at tables God never called you to sit at. You're going to be invited to places of healing, elevation, laughter, and deep spiritual nourishment. You will finally understand why it had to hurt, why it had to end, why it had to feel like abandonment. Because if it didn't break your heart, you would have stayed in rooms that were cursing your name behind your back. The same people who ghosted you, blocked you, judged you, and mocked your growth are going to watch your light pierce the shadows they try to throw over you. And when they whisper about you, they'll whisper with confusion, because you won't just survive, you'll thrive. Jesus wants you to know, this isn't a delayed promise. This is an accelerated awakening. Your restoration isn't coming. It's already begun. Doors are opening that your enemies can't close. Opportunities are aligning that your past cannot ruin. People are being positioned who will love you without manipulation, without delay, and without making you feel like you have to shrink to fit their comfort. Your joy is being restored not with mere moments of happiness, but with a consistent presence of divine contentment. You will laugh again, not just at jokes, but in freedom. You will dance again, not to prove anything, but because your soul is light. And yes, they'll regret letting you go, but not because they miss controlling you. They'll regret it because they'll finally see who you truly were, a divine gift, a faithful soul, a blessing they mishandled. But Jesus doesn't want you focused on their regret. He wants you focused on your rising, on your next chapter, on your deep, wild, uncontainable joy that has no strings attached to the pain of the past. This joy is not based on who returns, who apologizes, or who finally understand your value. It is rooted in the truth that you were never abandoned. You were redirected. You were never rejected. You were rerouted. Every no you received from man was a yes waiting to be revealed by heaven. And it's coming now. It's coming in unexpected messages, in divine appointments, in random confirmations that feel too perfect to be coincidence. That heaviness in your chest that you thought would never lift, it's already loosening. That ache you carried in secret while pretending to be strong for everyone else, Jesus is healing it, cell by cell, layer by layer. You will wake up one day soon and realize you don't miss them anymore. You'll realize you don't need them to validate what God has already affirmed in you. You'll see their absence as a necessary clearing for your blessing's arrival. And when you walk past the places that once made you weep, you'll do it smiling. Not because the pain didn't matter, but because God used it to build something in you that cannot be broken again. So hold on, beloved. Stay anchored. Your joy is not just coming, it's near. And when it fills you, there will be no room left for bitterness. Only beauty, only light, only purpose. And Jesus will smile because you trusted him even when your heart was breaking. And now, he's preparing to reward you in a way that will silence every doubt and redeem every scar. You may not see it yet, but heaven has already shifted the atmosphere around you in your favor. And though your heart still carries fragments of what was lost, Jesus is orchestrating a full circle moment where you'll witness the ones who doubted you stunned by the glory you now carry, not as a weapon, but as a testimony of what happens when pain is surrendered and turned into praise. The things they laughed at, the dreams they minimized, the tears they dismissed, all of it is being gathered now, like pieces of gold being refined in fire. And Jesus wants you to know none of it was wasted. Your suffering was not senseless. Your disappointment wasn't divine punishment. It was sacred preparation, a pruning that hurt only because what was growing inside you needed more room to bloom than they were willing to give. The people who couldn't handle your process were never meant to witness your promise. They couldn't celebrate your steps because your very presence challenged their comfort zones. And that's why they let go. That's why they looked at you with envy in their eyes, but claimed it was concern. That's why they ghosted you and pretended it was peace. That's why they acted like your love was too much, when in truth, it exposed the lack in their own hearts. But heaven never ghosted you. Heaven never left. And the angels assigned to you never stopped fighting. Jesus has seen every battle behind your smile. He saw the nights you replayed conversations, wondering if you could have fixed what was already destined to fall apart. He saw the way you doubted your own worth because someone else couldn't see the light you carried. But the truth is, their blindness was never your burden. Some people can't see stars if they've only ever lived under low ceilings. Some people can't honor your heart if they're still afraid of their own. But Jesus does not ask you to dim. He does not ask you to beg. He simply asks you to keep going. Keep trusting. Keep becoming. Because there's a version of you, healed, whole, radiant, that's about to rise with so much joy, even your enemies won't be able to explain it. They'll regret letting you go when they see how much peace you now walk in. When they realize you never needed them to shine, you are always the light. Jesus says you've been carrying burdens that were never yours to begin with. They're projections, they're fears, they're unhealed wounds masquerading as advice. And you wore it like armor, thinking it would protect you. But all it did was delay your dance. Now it's time to lay it down. It's time to unclench your fists and release the grip on what you thought you needed to be loved. Because the kind of love that's coming doesn't require performance. It won't make you question your place. It won't shrink you or shame you. It will feel like breath in your lungs, not weight on your shoulders. But first, you must remember who you are. You're not disposable. You're not too emotional. You're not too intense, too quiet, too broken. You are a miracle wrapped in human skin, a living altar of grace, and no one's inability to love you changes your value. Jesus says they will remember you, not as a mistake, but as the moment they failed to recognize a blessing when it stood right in front of them. But while they wrestle with regret, you'll be resting in renewal. You won't be waiting for their apology to move forward. You'll already be knee-deep in purpose, in laughter, in days so beautiful you'll forget what it felt like to cry over people who were never meant to stay. God is preparing encounters that will heal what others broke without needing explanation. He's bringing you into alignment with people who don't see you as too much, but just enough. You will not have to translate your soul or beg to be seen. You will be celebrated in places that once ignored you. And while they stalk your glow from a distance, you'll be too focused on the harvest to even notice the ones who once sowed doubt into your spirit. Jesus says, this isn't just recovery, it's rebirth. It's not just a new chapter, it's a new language, a new frequency, a new level of anointing that their memory of you can't even comprehend. They knew the version of you that doubted. They knew the version that gave, hoping it would be enough. But they don't know the version that's being resurrected now. The version that is fierce, faithful, and fully aware of their worth. So don't return to the places you had to heal from. Don't reply to the echoes of voices that once silenced yours. Don't reopen doors God had to slam shut for your survival. Because the regret they feel is their own journey. Yours is joy. Yours is light. Yours is the deep, satisfying realization that you didn't lose anything. They did. And what they let go of, heaven caught, heaven cradled, heaven restored. So let the tears fall if they must, but let them water your next victory. Let the silence they left behind become the sacred space where God now speaks. Let the empty places in your heart become the canvas where Jesus paints your next miracle. And when they regret, let them. But you, child of light, you keep walking because joy is waiting and it has your name written in bold across heaven's gates. And it will not be delayed. There's a moment coming where everything that tried to break you will feel small in the presence of what God is building through you. And though they may have turned away thinking you would never rise again, what they fail to consider is that your fall was not final. It was foundational. Every time they walked away, every time they mocked your faith, every time they minimized your pain or made you question your voice, it was being recorded in a heavenly ledger, not as a punishment for them, but as proof that nothing could truly bury what was divinely chosen to rise. Jesus says, you were never meant to be contained in the spaces they try to keep you. You were never meant to be understood by those who only see through the lens of comparison and control. You were never meant to explain your calling to people who can't even hear God whisper. So let them watch. Let them sit in silence while the glory that is resting upon you begins to move like a current too powerful to be denied. The way you forgive without being asked. The way you love after being left. The way you worship in the middle of waiting. That is your warfare. That is your weapon. And they can regret what they lost, but they cannot reverse what heaven has released. Jesus is raising you up in such a way that the old version of you can no longer survive the new rooms you're about to enter. And that's why it felt like everything collapsed at once. That's why you felt forgotten, invisible, disposable, because God was clearing the noise, detoxing your heart, removing counterfeit connections that would have compromised your calling. You thought it was punishment, but it was protection. You thought it was abandonment, but it was alignment. They walked away, not because you weren't worthy, but because your spirit was awakening and their comfort required your silence. But now your silence has turned into power. You are not who you used to be. Your tears have texture now. Your prayers have volume. Your faith has roots. And even when your hands were trembling, your spirit was training. Jesus saw it all. The way you held your breath when your heart was breaking. The way you showed up for others when no one showed up for you. The way you gave love that never returned the same way. And still, He chose you. Still, He trusts you with this next season. Still, He believes in the glory you carry. Because it was never about what they thought of you. It was about what heaven deposited in you before you ever even knew your own strength. They will regret letting you go not because they miss your presence, but because they now feel the absence of the light they tried to dim. They will remember the way your kindness made them feel seen. They will remember your voice echoing in their lives long after your footsteps have faded from their world. But you won't be waiting for their revelation. You'll be walking in resurrection. You'll be too full of new laughter, new love, new legacy to mourn the temporary absence of those who never deserved permanent access. This is the season where your joy won't come from their validation. It will come from divine confirmation, from waking up and knowing that peace is not the absence of pain. It's the presence of purpose. And Jesus says, your purpose is becoming louder than your past. The tables are turning, not in revenge, but in revelation. They will see, they will remember, but you will rejoice. You will bloom in rooms that once overlooked you. You will be called upon in places that once ignored your worth. And when the regrets come knocking, you won't be bitter. You'll be blessed. Because your heart is too holy to hold grudges. Your spirit is too refined to seek revenge. And your God is too good to let your story end in sorrow. He's writing you into chapters filled with surprise, joy, unexpected miracles, divine encounters, and yes, connections that won't ask you to shrink to fit in. You won't have to compete. You won't have to beg. You won't have to prove. Your presence will speak before your voice does, and your silence will be louder than their noise ever was. So stay ready, because what's coming will make your past look like preparation. The regret they feel will be theirs to carry. The reward you walk in will be heaven's response to every seed you sowed in silence. And while they look back, you'll be too busy moving forward, feet soaked in favor, arms full of blessings, and a heart finally free enough to dance. Because your joy was never dependent on their apology. It was destined the moment Jesus called your name, and you chose to keep walking, even when it hurt, even when it broke you, even when it looked like nothing was changing. You kept walking, and now joy is catching up. And now, child of light, I want you to understand the depth of what's happening in the unseen. While they sit with the memories of what they discarded, while they scroll through your page with a mixture of nostalgia and sorrow, while they play back conversations in their minds, wishing they had listened instead of dismissed you. You will not be in the same place emotionally, spiritually, or even geographically. No, by then you will have stepped into a timeline that was always waiting for your full healing to arrive. You will no longer be checking your phone hoping for a message that should have been sent months ago. You will no longer sit in silence, praying for the ones who left without explanation. You will be too busy building something holy with your scars, too busy laughing again. Not because life got easier, but because your spirit got stronger. They'll feel the absence of your energy, your love, your divine presence, and they'll finally realize that you weren't just someone passing through their life. You were the blessing they weren't prepared to steward. But Jesus says you were not meant to be contained in places of dishonor. That love you gave so freely, that kindness they never matched, that patience they mistook for weakness, those things weren't lost, they were sown. And every seed you planted in silence, every act of loyalty, every whispered prayer, every time you forgave without apology, is now breaking ground in places they can't reach, in blessings they won't witness. Because what I'm about to do in your life, says the Lord, will be so abundant, so overflowing, so divinely personal. It will only make sense to the one who stayed faithful through the silence. You, you who cried behind closed doors but still opened your heart again. You who gave when you were empty. You who loved through abandonment and worshiped through disappointment. The glory coming is not a reward for perfection. It's the inheritance of endurance. And Jesus wants you to know your season of grieving over what was is ending. Not because you force yourself to move on, but because I'm about to show you what it looks like to be divinely seen and supernaturally supported. No more begging for attention in places that treat your presence as an option. No more spiritual fatigue from holding up relationships that were never assigned to your destiny. No more wondering if you were too much or not enough. The truth is, you were too anointed for what they were ready to carry. You were ahead in the spirit, and they mistook it for being difficult. But what they labeled as intensity, heaven saw as authority. And now, I'm placing you in environments that celebrate what others only tolerated. I'm aligning you with souls that don't flinch when your wounds show. People who won't question your fire, they'll fan it. Communities that speak your language. Conversations that restore, not deplete. And as these new blessings unfold, you'll look back not with bitterness, but with gratitude. Because had they stayed, you might have settled. Had they apologized, you might have stayed stuck waiting for what was never meant to return. Their regret will rise, but it will not anchor you. Your elevation has begun, and regret cannot ride the winds of resurrection. You will soar without vengeance. You will thrive without needing closure. And just when you thought your heart was too tired to hope again, I will send laughter in waves. I will surprise you with divine appointments, emails you didn't expect, opportunities you didn't apply for, doors you didn't knock on. And in those moments, you'll feel it. The undeniable confirmation that everything you lost made room for what you truly deserved. They'll see your glow and feel the ache of what they threw away, but you won't be waiting for their realization. You'll be busy in your restoration. Jesus says you're not being revived just to survive. You're being resurrected to lead, to inspire, to testify. The joy I'm giving you now doesn't come with conditions. It comes with oil, healing oil that drips into every part of your story and makes beauty from ashes. You will no longer explain your calling to people who treat you like a question mark. You will no longer edit your anointing to fit inside someone else's comfort zone. You are made to be seen in full light, to shine unapologetically, to walk in rooms carrying peace that doesn't beg for permission. And if you're still holding on to the fragments of what could have been, let them go now. Release the fantasy because the future is already being built and you are at the center of it. I have seen every chapter, and I know this next one will rewrite the way you see yourself, the way you love, the way you dream. Let the tears fall if they must. Let the echoes of their name fade. What's ahead is too sacred to share with those who couldn't handle your silence. And now, my beloved, because you stayed faithful in the breaking, because you trusted me in the waiting, I am declaring this over you. Joy will not delay. Restoration will not skip over you. And by the time they regret letting you go, you will already be walking in a joy that cannot be explained, only lived. Now go. The light ahead is not a mirage. It is your miracle.